Good evening, dear students. So today we'll talk about HRA, house rent allowances. Usually what happens, employers, they provide rent-free accommodation like quarters and all to the employees. But not all the employers will be able to provide rent-free accommodation, right? Say for example, our college, they are not providing us rent-free accommodation. They are not providing us quarters to stay, right? In such cases, what happens is that the employer has to pay compensation to the employee for not providing the rent-free accommodation, because they are paying rent and staying by themselves. So the employer has to provide compensation. So what they do, they provide compensation in the form of cash, okay, so that they can pay the rent from that cash. So that compensation is actually known as house rent allowances. That is HRA. Is that clear? Now let's talk about the tax treatment of HRA, which is our main concern, okay? The tax treatment. Now one thing you have to remember is that whatever HRA they are receiving, the full amount is not taxable, not the full amount. There is some exemption, meaning if the employee is giving me, say for example, 5,000 rupees as HRA. So what happens, the full HRA, I will not have to pay tax in that full 5,000 rupees. There are some exemption. So we will be discussing about those exemption. Whether I have to pay the full 5,000 or lesser than that or more than that, that is what we have to discuss. Exemptions under HRA. When it comes to exemption, three things you have to remember, and the smallest of this three amount will be taken as the exemption. So the first one is 50% or 40% of the salary. If it's Bombay, Kolkata, Delhi, Madras, it's 50%. If they have mentioned some other states apart from these states like Bombay, Kolkata, Delhi, Madras, then you can take it 40% of salary as one. And number two will be the actual HRA received. And number three will be actual rent minus 10% of salary. Okay, so these three you have to remember. Again, when we are talking about salary, 50% of salary, 40% of salary, then 10% of salary. So in this case, what is salary? Salary is actually basic salary plus commission plus DA enters. Now DA enters means in question sometimes they write only 50% enters, 60% enters, so you have to take only 50 or 60%. We have already done a sum regarding this, so I hope you know this. So computation of taxable salary when HRA is given. So this is how it will look like. Usually you know that when you are calculating taxable salary, first you start with the basic salary. You write down the basic salary and the amount commission and the amount per annum, okay, not monthly, you write annually. So then DA, then the amount, and if there's any fully taxable allowances, those amounts. And now we'll talk about HRA. This is particular column for HRA. Now house rent allowances, what do you have to do? First, you write down HRA received, which will be given in the question itself. So copy down as it is from the question how much the SSC has received from the employer. That you write down in the inner column. Then those exemption which we just discussed just now, those three things, those you write down in the particular itself. So inside the particular, you create your own amount column. So there 1, 2, 3, so 40%, 50% depending on the city which they have mentioned, and then 2 actual HRA received, and then 3 actual rent paid minus 10% of salary. And remember, number 2 will be similar to the one which you have written above, okay? So that much you have to remember. Then what you have to do is, from these three, whichever is the least, the smallest, you write down here where I have given you that arrow. There you have to write down the least of these three amounts, okay? And finally, the HRA received, the one you had written in the inner column, and the least of the three amounts, these two amounts you subtract, and final one you write down outside. Then the outer column, add it all, then you get the taxable salary. That's it. Now let's discuss this illustration, this particular illustration. Let me read the question for you. Mr. Harry is employed at Amritsar. So Harry is the SSC and he is employed at Amritsar. They have mentioned the city Amritsar, not Delhi or Madras or those cities. So that means you have to take 40%, not 50%. So 40%. Remember that exemption point number 1. So in that point number 1, you have to take 40%, not 50%, remember. And then they are saying salary of 30,000 per month. They have given per month. You have to make it per year, not month. So don't forget to convert the salary into yearly wise. And then employer is paying HRA. So he's paying 8,000 per month. This also convert into yearly. Actual rent paid, this you will need in exemption point number 2. Okay, and they have given monthly again. You have to make it, you have to convert it into yearly. Then finally they have said 2% commission on turnover. Over means sales. You always have to calculate commission on sales, and the turnover is 50 lakhs, so you have to calculate 2% of 50 lakhs. That will be commission. Okay, so this is it about the question. Let's get to the solution now. First you have to draw a format like this. Then you do one thing, keep the question with you so that when you're looking at this and jotting down, you're looking at your question at the same time. Okay, so after doing this, after drawing this format, then go on writing basic salary and then commission, and then there's no dearness allowances, no need to write. There's no other allowances, no need to write. So directly you can come down to HRA. After doing that much, it'll look like this. And after this, let's do 1, 2, 3, 3. After that, you write down house rent allowances and house rent received as is it's given in the question. Okay. Now after that, you write down those 3 points, like 40% of salary, actual HRA received, actual rent paid by Hari, minus 10% of salary. Now salary means basic salary plus commission, don't forget. So then go on calculating this point number 3, actual rent paid, also it's given in the question. Now this is how it will look like. So 40% of salary, don't forget, is basic salary plus commission. So it comes to 360 plus 1 lakh. Then 40% will be 184. Then actual HRA received is 8,000 into 12. This is given the question. Then again, actual rent is 12,000. So they have given monthly. So make it multiplied by 12 to get the yearly. And then minus 10% of salary. So by doing all those calculation, you get 1 as 1,84,000, 2 as 9,60,000, and the third one as 98,000. Now after getting these 3 amounts, now you see which one is the smallest. So the smallest is 96,000. So this 96,000, write down outer column. Now the above 96, below 96, you subtract. So when you subtract, it comes as nil. So in the outer column, you just give a small dash like this, small dash. That's it. Then you add the outer column, all the outer column. So after adding all the outer column, you get 4,60,000. That is your taxable salary. So the taxable salary of Mr. Hari for the assessment year 2019-20 is rupees 4,60,000. If you want to, you can add a small note after the solution. You can say here salary is equals to basic salary plus commission. That's it.